Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. Glad to have you aboard this evening as we go over this afternoon's news from the Edmonton Oilers pertaining to the latest cuts at camp, some players on waivers, and one, Bo Akey sent back to juniors. So with that, friends, well, let's not waste too much time here. Let's get right into what we got for you today, the official news from the Edmonton Oilers at about 1 o'clock p.m. That's when they announced everything. It was kind of a guessing game between noon and 1 o'clock about Bo Akey and kind of his status and what the clearances were going to be. Indeed, the Oilers announced the formal move at 1:08 this afternoon, but before that, they placed defensemen Ben Gleason and Phil Kemp on waivers, forward Lane Peterson and Colin Delia as well on waivers for the purpose of assignment, loaned James Hamblin to the Bakersfield Condors, and Bo Akey has been sent back to the Barrie Colts of the OHL. So all in all, a pretty busy day at camp for the Edmonton Oilers. Very few players remain. Travis Dermott is still hanging around on a PTO. You got some other decisions to make, but it's coming down to the nitty gritty here in training camp. Very few games remaining, 2 at this point now. And oh, by the way, you've got some decisions to make on your fourth line center spot and on your defense. So for the Oilers, whether you mix it up and match it 14-6, 13-7, 13-7, or 14-6, however you, 12-7, however you want to do it. There are a million combinations still to be played with forwards and defensemen for the Oilers. Obviously, Cal Picard's status, as long as he gets kind of cleared before the end of camp here, shouldn't interfere too much, but as we understand it right now, it should be pretty straightforward. The Oilers will carry, hopefully, an extra forward. They'll carry 6 defensemen, I think, is what you got to do. I think the Oilers ultimately are going to have to make the hard call on Josh Brown and send him down. Just, again, if you've got the opportunity to clear that cap space a little bit more, right? Use a $775 contract up front in terms of cap space as opposed to $1 million on the back end for a 7th defenseman. I think the Oilers have to, and that's really the only math that makes sense in my opinion. So that's where I would tell you right now is I'm hoping the Oilers will go 13-6, just necessarily to maybe escape Raphael Lavoie on waivers, maybe reward Noah Philp for a good camp, and just really tighten down that cap at least to start, just simply because the more you save now, especially there's another caveat to that I should mention, Roby Järventie's contract status, at least to start the year, will be on the Oilers cap hit books. It'll be a very minor cap hit overall, but because he's on there for a few days, it will still charge the Oilers a couple $100 against the daily average, and that is not necessarily troublesome, but when you talk about saving cap space over the course of a year, as we saw in the Matthias Ekholm trade, every last dollar counts, and that's where I think the Oilers necessarily really have to maximize the dollars available throughout the year towards the NHL trade deadline, specifically if they want to pull the trigger on a second-hand right D before sometime in late February, early March. So, a million ways to slice this. Again, we keep getting closer to camp. Noah Philp, Raphael Lavoie still here. Drake Caggiula is still hanging around. Patrick from the Oilers Fanatic theorized with me this afternoon on the drive home, simply saying it's just a reward for a good camp. I threw back his way. Well, Drake Caggiula could be used as a shield to kind of get Raphael Lavoie through waivers. If they go down the same day, you would assume a team would be more apt to give Drake Caggiula, a guy with NHL experience, a go on a waiver claim than maybe Raphael Lavoie, who is passing through waivers for the second time this year if he indeed gets placed to go down. So we'll see what happens. Plenty of options. I could talk your ear off all evening about it, but instead I'm going to go take care of business here tonight, and we'll get back to it tomorrow as we continue in this training camp 2024, which has already been eventful, and we'll see what happens as we get closer to seeing if Darnell Nurse is indeed going to suit up in the next game for the Edmonton Oilers. For right now, though, I'm up on out of here. Have a great rest of your evening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.